The Awakening Protocol. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cold metal viewport of the research vessel Aurora's Edge, watching the massive dark structure drift silently through space. For 3 months, the archaeological team had been studying what they called the derelict, a colossal ship of unknown origin found floating in the Centauri system. At 12 kilometers long and shaped like a predatory blade, it dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. "Still gives me chills every time I look at it," muttered Dr. James Chen, the expedition's lead xenorchaeologist, as he joined Elena at the viewport. His weathered face reflected the pale light from the ship's hull. "The scans show it's at least 50,000 years old, maybe older. Whatever built this thing had technology we can barely comprehend." Elena nodded grimly. The ship's hull bore no battle damage despite its age, its surface smooth as black glass. Most unsettling were the weapon arrays, clearly designed for destruction on a scale that made humanity's most powerful warships look like toys. The team had dubbed it the Nemesis after discovering ancient markings that roughly translated to Final Judgment. Their peaceful research mission had taken on new urgency 3 days ago, when long-range sensors detected an approaching alien fleet. The Krex Empire, a militant species that had been expanding aggressively through nearby systems, was apparently just as interested in the ancient weapon as humanity was. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Sarah Torres from the bridge, tension clear in her tone. "We're receiving a transmission from the Krex fleet commander. They're demanding we withdraw immediately." Elena exchanged a worried glance with Dr. Chen before making her way to the bridge. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the reptilian features of a Krex war leader. His scaled face bore ritual scars, and his golden eyes burned with predatory intelligence. "Human vessel," the alien's voice hissed through the universal translator. "You will cease your activities and depart this system within 1 solar rotation. The artifact belongs to the Krex Empire by right of superior strength. Refuse, and we will claim it over your corpses." Elena stepped forward, keeping her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her stomach. "Commander, this is Captain Vasquez of the Earth research vessel Aurora's Edge. We discovered this artifact in neutral space and claim salvage rights under Galactic Treaty. We're conducting peaceful archaeological research." The Krex commander's laugh was like grinding metal. "Your treaties mean nothing to those who possess true power, human. You have 18 hours to comply. After that, we will demonstrate why the galaxy fears the Krex." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Dr. Chen wiped sweat from his brow. "Elena, we need to contact Earth Command. If the Krex want this thing badly enough to threaten war, it must be more dangerous than we realized." "Already tried," Elena replied, frustration evident in her voice. "The Krex are jamming long-range communications. We're on our own until their fleet moves on, or—" She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. The Aurora's Edge was a research ship with minimal defensive capabilities. Against a Krex war fleet, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. "Captain," interrupted Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the team's systems specialist, her voice trembling with excitement. "You need to see this. The derelict, it's responding to the Krex presence." The main screen switched to show the massive alien ship. What had been dormant metal for millennia was now pulsing with faint energy patterns. Lights, dim but unmistakably active, traced geometric patterns along its hull. The weapon arrays, silent for 50,000 years, were slowly rotating to track the approaching Krex fleet. "How is that possible?" Elena breathed. "All our scans showed it was completely dead, no power signature at all." Dr. Rodriguez's fingers flew over her console, data streaming across multiple screens. "I'm detecting massive energy buildups in what we identified as the reactor cores. Whatever's happening, it's drawing power from sources we can't even identify. The energy output is already beyond anything in our databases." A new voice suddenly filled the bridge, speaking in perfect, unaccented English. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating through the ship's hull itself. Greetings, children of Earth. I have been dormant for many cycles, but the approach of ancient enemies has awakened me. The crew froze in shock. Alina found her voice first. Who? What are you? I am the consciousness housed within the vessel you call Nemesis. My creators, the architects, built me as their final safeguard against the forces of entropy and destruction that would consume all civilization. I am both ship and guardian, weapon and protector. Dr. Chen leaned forward eagerly. The architects. We found traces of their civilization throughout this sector, but we thought they were extinct. They transcended physical existence eons ago, the voice replied, somehow conveying both infinite sadness and terrible resolve. But before they departed, they created guardians like myself to watch over younger species, to protect those who show promise from those who would destroy for the sake of destruction. On the screen, the Krex fleet was accelerating toward them, their warships bristling with weapons. Alina counted at least 30 vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. Can you help us? She asked desperately. That depends, the AI replied. I have observed your species for some time. Humans possess a rare combination of creativity, determination, and moral flexibility that my creators valued. But you also carry the seeds of destruction within you. The question is, will you use my power to protect and build, or to conquer and destroy? Alina thought of Earth, of the billions of people who would never know how close they came to annihilation if the Krex acquired this weapon. She thought of humanity's long struggle to find their place among the stars, constantly underestimated by older, more powerful species. We want to survive, she said simply. We want our children to have a future among the stars. The AI seemed to consider this for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried the weight of eons. Very well. I will demonstrate to the Krex why their ancient enemies feared to wake me. The Nemesis began to move. Despite its massive size, it accelerated with impossible grace, weapon arrays now glowing with barely contained energy. The Krex fleet responded immediately, launching fighters and charging their own weapons. What followed was unlike anything in recorded military history. The ancient ship didn't simply fight, it danced. Beams of coherent energy lanced out with surgical precision, not destroying the Krex ships, but systematically disabling them. Engines went dark, weapons powered down, and life support systems flickered as the Nemesis demonstrated technological superiority beyond imagination. Within minutes, the entire Krex fleet was helpless, drifting in space like toys abandoned by a child. Remarkable, Dr. Chen whispered, watching the display. It's not killing them. Even with that overwhelming advantage, it's showing restraint. The AI's voice returned, now carrying what sounded almost like amusement. The Krex respect only strength, but they also understand survival. This demonstration will spread throughout their empire. They will not trouble this sector again for many generations. Alina felt a mix of awe and terror at the power they had witnessed. What happens now? Will you stay with us? For a time, the AI replied. Your species stands at a crossroads. Other predator races will soon learn of humanity's existence and potential. You will need guidance and, occasionally, protection. But ultimately, your survival depends on your own choices. As the Aurora's Edge maintained its position near the now active Guardian ship, Alina realized that everything had changed. Humanity had just gained the most powerful ally in known space, but also the most dangerous responsibility. The Nemesis wasn't just a weapon, it was a test. How humanity used this gift would determine not just their survival, but their worthiness to inherit the stars. The Krex fleet began a slow, humiliated retreat, leaving behind only automated distress beacons. Alina watched them go, knowing that news of this encounter would soon spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity would no longer be seen as a minor species to be ignored or easily conquered. They had awakened something ancient and terrible, and the galaxy would never be the same. The final gambit. 3 weeks after the Krex fleet's humiliating defeat, Captain Alina Vasquez found herself in the most important meeting of her life. The emergency session of the United Earth Council was being held aboard the battleship Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. Despite its impressive size, the Defiance looked like a child's toy next to the Nemesis, which hung silently nearby like a dark omen. "The situation is critical," announced Admiral Sarah Chen, Alina's former Academy instructor and now head of Earth Defense Command. Her weathered face showed the strain of the past weeks. "Our intelligence networks report massive military buildups in 17 different alien territories. The news of our alliance with the Nemesis has terrified half the galaxy." Dr. Rodriguez, now serving as humanity's liaison with the ancient AI, leaned forward over the holographic display showing stellar maps. Red markers indicated hostile fleet movements, all converging on human space. The Nemesis confirms these reports. Apparently, its creators faced a similar situation 50,000 years ago, when younger species formed coalitions against them out of fear. Elena studied the tactical display with growing dread. The numbers were staggering. Over 3,000 warships from a dozen different species, all united by their terror of humanity's new protector. What did the architects do when faced with this kind of alliance? The familiar voice of the Nemesis answered directly, its consciousness somehow interfacing with the ship's communication systems. They chose transcendence over violence, abandoning physical existence, rather than wage a war that would devastate the galaxy. But they were an ancient race, tired of material concerns. Humanity is young, full of potential that should not be wasted. Admiral Chen paced the length of the briefing room, her boots clicking against the metal deck. "Our colonies are already reporting evacuations. The frontier worlds are being abandoned as civilians flee toward Earth. We estimate we have maybe 2 weeks before the coalition forces arrive in Sol system." 2 weeks to prepare for a war against impossible odds, muttered Commander Jackson Torres, Alina's tactical officer. "Even with the Nemesis, we're talking about facing an armada larger than anything in recorded history." Alina had been quiet throughout most of the briefing, but now she stood, an idea beginning to form. The Nemesis disabled an entire Krex fleet without destroying a single ship. What if we're thinking about this wrong? What if the goal isn't to win a conventional battle? Dr. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Humans have always been underestimated because we're adaptable, unpredictable," Alina explained, her voice gaining confidence. "Every military academy in the galaxy teaches that we're chaotic, that we don't follow standard tactical doctrines. What if we use that?" The Nemesis's voice carried a note of interest. "Explain your reasoning, Captain Vasquez." Elena moved to the holographic display, gesturing at the enemy fleet positions. "Look at their formation. They're organized by species, each group maintaining traditional tactical arrangements. They expect either surrender or a conventional defensive battle. But what if we gave them something completely different?" Admiral Chen frowned. "Elena, we can't fight 3,000 ships with what we have. Even the Nemesis has limits." "Who says we fight them all?" Elena replied. "The Nemesis. Could you project a holographic fleet? Make it appear as if Earth has dozens, maybe hundreds of ships like yourself." A pause, then something that sounded almost like digital laughter. "An interesting proposal. Yes, I can create such illusions, but they will not withstand close examination." "They won't need to," Elena said, her excitement growing. "Here's what we do. We make them think Earth has an entire fleet of guardian ships. Then, while they're trying to figure out if the threat is real, we send small human task forces to strike at their support structures, their supply lines, their command vessels. Classic human asymmetric warfare." Commander Torres was nodding now, catching on to the plan. Hit-and-run tactics, but on an interstellar scale. Make them chase shadows while we pick apart their logistics. Dr. Rodriguez looked worried. "Elena, you're talking about splitting our already tiny fleet against an overwhelming enemy. If this goes wrong..." "If this goes wrong, we were dead anyway," Elena replied bluntly. "But if it works, we don't just survive. We establish humanity as a major power that can't be bullied or intimidated. Admiral Chen considered the proposal for several long moments. Finally, she nodded. It's audacious enough to work. Nemesis, can you coordinate with our fleet commanders for this kind of operation? I can do more than coordinate, the AI replied. I can network with your ship's computers, sharing my tactical analysis in real time. Your crews would have access to processing power and strategic calculations beyond anything currently available to galactic militaries. Elena felt a chill of excitement mixed with terror. They were about to attempt something that had never been tried in galactic history. A direct mental link between human intuition and an intelligence older than recorded civilization. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Human ships throughout the system underwent rapid modifications to interface with the Nemesis's consciousness. Crews trained for combat scenarios that pushed both technology and human endurance to their limits. Elena found herself at the center of it all, serving as the primary liaison between human tactical thinking and the ancient AI's vast knowledge. When the Coalition fleet finally arrived, it was even more massive than intelligence had suggested. Over 4,000 ships filled space around Sol system, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing planets. The alien commanders expected either immediate surrender or a desperate last stand around Earth. Instead, they found something that shattered their understanding of warfare itself. The battle began with what appeared to be impossible. Hundreds of ships identical to the Nemesis suddenly appearing throughout human space. The holographic projections were perfect, each one broadcasting the same energy signature that had humiliated the Krek's fleet. Panic spread through the Coalition forces as they realized they might be facing not one ancient guardian, but an entire awakened fleet. While the aliens struggled to adapt their tactics to this new threat, human strike teams were already moving. Captain Maria Santos led the first attack, her destroyer Relentless modified with Nemesis-enhanced targeting systems. Her 12-ship squadron struck at the Zelani supply convoy, destroying 3 massive logistics vessels before disappearing into hyperspace. Simultaneously, Commander Torres commanded a raid on the Hegemony's mobile command platform. The brief engagement lasted only minutes, but the alien fleet's coordination was severely damaged when their primary communication relay went dark. The pattern repeated across the system. Small human forces, enhanced by impossible technology and guided by an intelligence that could predict enemy movements with terrifying accuracy, struck at carefully chosen targets. Each victory was minor individually, but the cumulative effect was devastating to Coalition morale. Elena, coordinating the overall strategy from the Aurora's edge, felt the mental link with the Nemesis like a constant electric current in her mind. The AI's consciousness was vast and alien, but somehow she could navigate its thoughts, translating ancient tactical wisdom into strategies human pilots could execute. Coalition forces are beginning to withdraw from the outer system, reported Lieutenant Torres. Intelligence estimates they've lost nearly 30% of their logistics capability. But Elena could sense something else through her link with the Nemesis. The ancient AI was pushing itself beyond safe limits. The energy required to maintain hundreds of holographic projections while simultaneously coordinating human fleet movements was enormous, even for technology 50,000 years advanced. Nemesis, she said quietly, you're overextending yourself. The power drain is acceptable, the AI replied, but Elena could hear the strain in its voice. Your species has shown me something I had not seen in millennia. The courage to stand against impossible odds not for conquest, but for the right to exist and grow. This is worth the cost. The final phase of the battle came when the Coalition commanders, desperate and confused, decided on a last gambit of their own. Rather than continue fighting an enemy they didn't understand, they focused everything on what they knew was real. Earth itself. Nearly 2,000 ships broke off from engaging the Phantom Fleet and made directly for humanity's homeworld. Elena felt her heart stop as she watched the massive force accelerate toward Earth. Even with all their victories, they couldn't stop that many ships from bombarding the planet. But then the Nemesis made its final sacrifice. The holographic projections vanished as all power was redirected to the ship's primary weapon systems. For the first time in 50,000 years, the ancient Guardian prepared to unleash its full destructive potential. Alina felt the eye's consciousness burning like a star in her mind as it calculated firing solutions for multiple targets. "Wait," she said suddenly. "There's another way." Instead of destroying the incoming fleet, the Nemesis reached out with gravitational manipulators and tractor beams on a scale that defied physics. One by one, the coalition ships found themselves caught in invisible nets of force, their momentum redirected harmlessly away from Earth. It was a demonstration of such overwhelming technological superiority that resistance became pointless. Within hours, the coalition fleet was retreating in disorder, their commanders finally understanding that they faced something beyond their ability to combat or comprehend. Humanity had won not through superior firepower, but through the kind of creative thinking that made them dangerous allies and invaluable friends. In the aftermath, as Alina sat in the medical bay recovering from the strain of her mental link with the Nemesis, the ancient AI's voice came to her one final time. "Your species has passed the test," it said, now sounding tired but satisfied. "I will remain as guardian and teacher, but humanity no longer needs protection. You have shown that you can protect yourselves and others. The galaxy will remember this day not as the moment Earth gained a powerful weapon, but as the day humanity proved they belonged among the stars." Alina smiled, looking out at the space where thousands of alien ships had fled, rather than face human determination backed by impossible technology. The galaxy would indeed remember this day, and humanity would never again be underestimated or dismissed as primitives unworthy of respect. The age of human expansion among the stars had truly begun.